In the last Dirt Dispatch, I talked about seeing a snow goose. Now, in case you missed it, long story short, recently my daughter and I spotted a single snow goose hanging out in the middle of a large flock of Canada geese just a mile or so from Dispatch's HQ here. A few days later, and about 70 miles farther south, I saw several more snow geese hanging out in a flock of Canada geese, as well as a large flock of what looked to be just snow geese. I mean, to be fair, I was a long ways away and driving down the interstate at 80 miles an hour, so it was kind of hard to make a definitive ID, but I'm 90% sure that that's what I saw. But no matter, really, because snow geese have been on my mind as a potential topic for the podcast. I mentioned them briefly a couple of episodes ago, and, well, they do fit the theme that I've been running with for the last couple of months. But seeing one, let alone several, well, that just solidified the idea. So today, I'm going to tell you about some silly geese, snow geese. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, and this is the Dispatches from the Forest podcast. Snow geese are primarily native to North America, and we have two subspecies, the lesser snow goose, which breeds in northeast Siberia, North Alaska, and northwest Canada, and then winters in the southern United States and northern Mexico, and once even made a rare appearance in Japan. And then we have the greater snow goose, which gets its name for being slightly larger, and which breeds farther north and east in northeast Canada and northwest Greenland, and then winters in the northeast United States. And by slightly larger, I do mean slightly larger. Greater snow geese average about 7 pounds, 3.2 kilograms, versus the lesser snow goose's maximum weight of around 6 pounds, 2.7 kilograms. So, not a huge difference there. A wingspan for both is about 4.5 to 5.5 feet, 135 to 165 centimeters. And for reference, greater snow geese are just a little bit smaller than Canada geese, which weigh on average roughly 8 to 8.5 pounds, 3.6 to 3.9 kilograms. But it's not their breeding ground that gives the snow geese their common name, but rather the fact that many of them are nearly all white, with the exception of black wingtips that are visible in flight or show up as a sort of black stripe near their tail when their wings are folded. But that said, like the Arctic foxes I talked about a couple episodes ago, snow geese come in two color morphs, white and blue. The white or snow morph is the one I just talked about, the one that gives them the common name snow goose. But the blue morph is the source of their scientific name, Anser cirrulensens. Anser being Latin for goose, and cirrulensens meaning bluish. The blue morph is more common in lesser snow geese than it is in greater snow geese. Why? I don't know. But like I talked about with Arctic foxes, the gene for the blue morph is actually dominant over the gene for the white morph, and yet the white morph tends to be more common overall. Blue morph snow geese are bluish gray except on the head, neck, and tip of the tail, which are white. Honestly speaking, blue morph snow geese are kind of odd looking. Their head and body don't really seem to match up. It's like somebody stuck that white head on the body of a different bird, like a bad Photoshop job. No offense to the snow geese. Now, white and blue morph birds do interbreed, and the offspring can be of either morph. So, a quick lesson in basic genetics. If a blue morph goose mates with a white morph goose, the offspring will all be blue morphs. If two white morph geese mate, their offspring will all be white. And if two blue morph geese mate, they'll have mostly blue morph offspring, but maybe a few white ones too. And actually, the two color variations were at one time thought to be completely separate species, but since they interbreed and are found together throughout their ranges, they're now considered two color phases of the same species. But abundance of white morph snow geese may also have something to do with mate choice. When choosing a mate, young snow geese tend to pick a mate that matches the color of their parents, though chicks hatched to mixed color pairs don't show a preference. But both color morphs have rose red feet and legs and pink bills with black tomia, that's spelled Tomia, or cutting edges, which gives them something that's known as a black grin patch or lips. Essentially, that black tomia emphasizes the line where the upper and lower bills meet, making it look more, well, mouth like than other waterfowl. And those colors on the feet, legs, and bill help distinguish the snow goose from very similar looking white domestic geese. Now, snow geese are vegetarians, described as having a, quote, voracious appetite for grasses, sedges, rushes, forbs, horsetails, shrubs, and willows, unquote. And they'll eat nearly any part of a plant, including seeds, stems, leaves, tubers, and roots. In the winter and during migration, they also eat grain and young stems of farm crops, along with a variety of berries. When they arrive on the breeding ground, female snow geese will forage up to 18 hours a day, but once they start incubating eggs, they don't eat much at all. And here's your be happy you're not a snow goose fact of the day. Food passes through the snow goose's digestive tract in just about an hour or two, so they generate anywhere from 6 to 15 droppings per hour. Their defecation rate is highest when they're grubbing for rhizomes because not only are those very high in fiber, the goose inevitably swallows mud in the process. So, when things in your life are looking bleak, just be glad you're not swallowing mud and pooping 15 times an hour. Puts things into perspective, am I right? Now, snow geese breed from late May to mid-August, but they leave the nesting grounds and spend more than half the year on their migration to and from those warmer wintering areas. Now, according to several sources, snow geese do form mixed flocks with other species of geese, although Canada geese may not be their first choice. One source claimed that snow geese frequently travel and feed alongside greater white-fronted geese, and these two species tend to avoid traveling and feeding alongside Canada geese, which are usually, like I said, a little bit bigger and heavier. But that doesn't mean it never happens, as I observed. Although I would say a single snow goose in the middle of several dozen Canada geese is not so much a mixed flock as it is a lost or confused snow goose. And snow geese are known to occasionally hybridize with other species of geese, including Canada geese. When wintering and migrating flocks are feeding, lookouts keep an eye out for eagles or other predators. When a threat is spotted, they call out to the rest of the flock, which might then take flight. During the spring migration, also known as the reverse migration, large flocks of snow geese fly very high along narrow migration corridors or flyways, traveling more than 3,000 miles, 4,800 kilometers, from their traditional wintering areas to their tundra nesting areas. Females in particular show a high degree of something called philopatry, meaning they return to the place they were hatched in order to breed. On a side note, while snow geese can make epic journeys by air, they're pretty impressive on foot too. Within the first 3 weeks of hatching, goslings can walk up to 50 miles with their parents from the nest to a more suitable brood-reading area. And molting snow geese that can't fly can still outrun a lot of predators. Plus, they're strong swimmers, as you might expect, but are also capable of diving short distances when threatened. Now, during migration in winter, they roost mainly at night and afloat, which keeps them safer from predators on land. Now, like many geese, snow geese mate for life, forming long-term pair bonds around the age of 2, even though they don't actually breed until the age of 3. Snow geese generally nest in colonies. The female selects a nest site, typically one that's sheltered in vegetation, and builds the nest on an area of high ground. She might lay the first egg within an hour of selecting the site. She builds the nest by herself, working at any time of day. Starting with a simple scrape in the earth, as she starts to lay eggs, she adds fluffy down feathers plucked from her own breast, sometimes quite a large number of them, and she might add other vegetation too. Basically, the less protected the nest site, the heftier the nest itself will be. Nests can range from 3 to 6.5 feet across, 91 to 200 centimeters, and the nest might be reused from year to year. Average clutch size is 5 eggs, and the female incubates them for 21 or more hours a day for the next 3 to 4 weeks, while the male stands guard to defend his mate and nest against predators and other snow geese. The young are precocial, which, if you've listened to the podcast before, you should know that that's common in ground nesting birds. They hatch with their eyes open and covered in down and can leave the nest within just a few hours of hatching. And even though they're covered in down, it's apparent as soon as they hatch whether these snow geese are going to be white or blue morphs. The chicks can feed themselves, but they're protected by both parents. The biggest threats, mainly from Arctic foxes and seabirds, is during the first couple weeks after the eggs are laid and then right after hatching. Now, while the eggs and young chicks are vulnerable to these predators, adults are generally safe. Interestingly, snow geese have been seen nesting near snowy owl nests, which is thought to actually help protect them from predators. Nesting success was significantly lower in the absence of snowy owls, leading scientists to believe that the owls, since they're predatory, helped keep competing predators away from the snow goose nests. Now, even though the chicks can fly when they're about 6 weeks old, they'll stay with their family until they reach the age of 2 to 3 years, when they form pair bonds of their own. Average lifespan for snow geese in the wild is somewhere between 10 and 20 years, but the oldest known snow goose on record, a blue morph, was shot in Idaho in 2020. It was 30 years, 8 months old, which we know because it was originally banded in Arizona in 1990. Now, in the early 1900s, snow goose numbers were low. In 1916, snow goose hunting in the eastern U.S. was stopped in the interest of conservation. And it was successful. By the mid-1970s, snow geese populations had recovered to a point that hunting could be resumed. And since the mid-1970s, their population has continued to grow, increasing over 300% to a now estimated 16 million breeding birds, making them the second most abundant waterfowl on the planet behind the mallard duck. Now, since snow geese nest in remote areas, their breeding colonies are not really impacted very much by humans. And, well, you won't get to hear me say this about a lot of species, but thanks to the conversion of land from forest and prairie to agriculture in their wintering grounds, combined with a warming climate on the breeding grounds, snow geese have been, well, maybe too successful, problematically successful, to the point where they're degrading both their nesting and wintering habitat through sheer numbers grubbing for food, which not only reduces their own breeding success, but also compromises the habitat of nesting shorebirds. Attempts by the United States and Canada to reduce the population by allowing extra hunting have been largely unsuccessful, simply because the take by hunters, even when that take tallies several 100,000 birds, is just a drop in the bucket of that 16 million. So let's end with some noises because it makes my wife really happy. And snow geese have been described as possibly the noisiest of all waterfowl. Their main call, made by both males and females, is a nasal one-syllable honk given at any hour of the day or night, at any time of year, in the air or on the ground. Their calls can be heard from over a mile away, and distant calling flocks are said to be reminiscent of a pack of baying hounds. Birds less than a year old have a clearer and high-pitched whistle. Family groups use a series of guttural notes to communicate with each other while feeding. Parents make a fast, quiet series of notes as a brood call to round up their goslings. During nesting, they use a penetrating alarm call that varies in intensity based on the threat. And finally, the flight call is a continuous chorus of shrill cries, hoarse honks, and high-pitched quacks, audible again both day and night. And with that, my feral friends, I'm going to stop issuing noises from my mouth hole. But before I do, please consider supporting the podcast. It would really help me out. Here's how you can do that. Become a patron. Subscriptions start at just $5 a month. And with 3 paid months, you get free Dispatches from the Forest merch. Find all the details at patreon.com/dispatches from the forest. Make donations through either PayPal or Venmo using my email address, dispatchesfromtheforest@gmail.com, which is also how you can contact me with any questions, comments, or requests for future episodes. You can also donate using the Cash App and the hashtag ForestNerd. If a check is more your style, send me a message and I'll send you my mailing address. And of course, there's Dispatches from the Forest merch you can buy. Go check out the merch store at cafepress.com/shop/dispatches from the forest. Click on products and see all the things we have to offer. Finally, follow Dispatches from the Forest on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, reminding you to go outside and get dirty. Dispatches from the Forest recognizes that the lands where we live, work, and recreate are the traditional homelands of the Eastern Shoshone and Northern Arapaho people. We understand that this land holds immense significance for the original stewards, native nations, and peoples of this region. The Dispatches from the Forest podcast is a production of Dispatches from the Forest and may not be used or rebroadcast whole or in part without express written permission.